Welcome to Central News. My name is Tim Masemola. This afternoon, we are going to be talking to the Democratic Alliance leader, Dr. Roy. We are going to be talking about the motion of no confidence that removed Jeff Zwane as the executive mayor of Metsimaholo Local Municipality. There was a statement that was released by the Democratic Alliance, and Dr. Roy is the one who's going to be explaining it further with us here. Dr. Roy, welcome to Central News.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon.
Yes, Doctor, before we go any further, I read your statement, I went through it, but one of the things that you said there was, it was a very sad day for the people of Metsimaholo. Somebody will say, what does that mean? It is a sad day for the people of Metsimaholo.
Well, Tim, firstly, I want you to call me Roy, not Doctor. Everyone calls me Roy. So, secondly, I think it's a very sad day for Metsimaholo for the simple reason that where the DA governs and where we take over government from the ANC, we start the long journey. And I want to emphasize that it is a long journey. It's not a short journey to recovery for that municipality. So we immediately start to get our structures in place, our finances of the municipality back on track in terms of service delivery. We get our administration on track. And for the Democratic Alliance, it's not just about plans and budgets. It's about how these budgets and plans actually affect the people's lives and livelihoods on the ground. And that is how we measure our progress. And it is a long journey when you take over municipalities. But the sad thing is that we weren't able to complete this journey, that we were halted in the middle of it, and not even in the middle of it before we were able to progress very far, because it takes a while to fix what is broken. And the reason why it's sad is if you look at ANC-run municipalities across the Free State, they're in total collapse. We've seen the looting of those municipalities and their finances. We've seen that the people sit for days, even months, go to Parys, go to Harrismith, go to Kwakwa, go to Machabeng. People sit days without water. The finances are in disarray. They can't even send people bills in many instances. The Eskom debt is extremely high. And I can give you some examples from the MEC that we received in replies in the legislature. Machabeng, for example, owes the water board over R1 billion. The Eskom debt is far over R1 billion. Smaller municipalities, if you look at their debt to Eskom, I mean, let's say Meng, which is a small municipality, almost 150 million rand. Pumalela, 160 million rand. Mafube, 230 million. And at the moment in Metsimaholo, we don't owe Eskom any money. And that's a very important indicator for us of the recovery of the finances and that your finances are on the right track. And we don't want the people of Metsimaholo to be in the same situation as people in other municipalities in the Free State. We were hoping for an opportunity to fix that municipality and to show the residents what we can do. And we always say to residents, just give us a chance. If we don't meet your expectations, vote us out. But that's the problem with the minority government, and the people don't give you a majority to govern, is that you always have this sword over your head that other parties can remove you at any minute. And unfortunately, those parties that have taken over the municipality have a very poor track record, the ANC specifically, of governance, of municipal governance, especially in the Free State. The EFF, who now have MMC positions, they've never governed before, and they don't have any track record anywhere of good governance. We, at least in the DA, have a good track record where we govern. Just go across the border to Midvaal and see what we've done with that municipality compared to others in Gauteng, and you'll see our track record. The only track record the EFF have is VBS looting. I think that's about all they have to show for anything that they've done, which is nothing to be proud of, obviously.
Yes, somebody might say you haven't been governing Metsimaholo for for a longer period. Like you are saying, you are only given a small period. But are there any achievements that you can say, even though we governed for a year, 2 years, but we managed to fix here and here?
Well, I think the most important thing is we started to bring stability to the administration. So there were many positions that were vacant for many years in the municipality. We appointed a permanent municipal manager, permanent directors, and that's the first step in bringing stability to a municipality. Because we found that, you know, in ANC-run municipalities with the cadre deployment, they keep playing municipal chairs. Today you've got this person, the next day that person. And many of the municipalities in the Free State don't have permanent CFOs, don't have permanent municipal managers. And that's why they're in the state that they're in, and that's why they're so unstable. So we started off with that. And then we started to look at the budgets. And the Democratic Alliance, fortunately, have a lot of experience in terms of municipal governance and in terms of the Western Cape province. But in places like Midvaal and other municipalities, we govern well. And what we've done is we've also have a governance unit within our party at national level. We also developed one within the Free State to support our politicians on the ground to get into government, to ensure that they have good service delivery budgets in place to assist them with the administration. Because you must remember, this is the first for us in the Free State. So many of our politicians on the ground don't have much experience in government. So we give them that necessary support. And I must say, I think our mayor and MMCs were fast learners and they really got to grips with their portfolios very fast. And our governance unit provincially and nationally. I mean, Helen Zille came to Metsimaholo with all her experience as a mayor, as a premier, the best mayor in the world at one stage. She was voted. She came to Metsimaholo on a number of occasions to give advice, to support, and to assist. And then, you know, we also controlled municipal debt to Eskom. So at this stage, as the ANC took over, there's no municipal debt to Eskom. I showed examples of other municipalities in the Free State. But one of the best achievements, I think, is, you know, when people complained about service delivery issues, and you must remember, we took over a municipality that was run by cadres. We sat with a very hostile administration. It took literally more than a year just to get bush cutters to cut grass because the administration was blocking us at places. There was sabotage of equipment that we experienced. We had a hostile council because we didn't have a majority in council. The speaker was not a DA speaker to support us either. But with all of that, what we did is we opened dialogue with community organizations. When the organizations, you know, complained about something, we said, let's sit down and talk. And we ended now with 2 monthly meetings with community organizations where our mayor and his whole committee, executive committee, would sit there and the community had an opportunity to ask questions and they would reply to these questions, and within 2 months they would give feedback. Nowhere else in the Free State is that happening at the local government level. And I think that's one of the bigger achievements because we believe in consultative government. We want to talk to people, to explain to them, because what most people want on the ground is to know what's happening. They don't want to be left in the dark. I'm sitting in Bloemfontein at the moment where there's no water. And, you know, we don't get enough communication on the ground. Harry Smith and Kwakwa, the Olamaluti Apofung have been sitting without water, not just for months, for a very long time. The people on the ground don't know what's happening. So, you know, what we need to do is, as politicians, is communicate. And that is what our government there started doing very effectively through community organizations. And those community organizations who initially were a little bit hostile eventually came on board and said, listen, let's see how we can work together to overcome the problems that we have. So those are just a few of the things which I think we can be proud of in Metsimaholo, and I think our mayor and MMCs are very proud of there.
Speaking of finances, someone might say, during your time as DA, you cannot leave the question of corruption aside. Are there any specific interventions as the Democratic Alliance that you came with trying to combat corruption?
Well, I think it's very important to note that when the Auditor General comes out with these reports, and we sit in the legislature, we've got the Public Accounts Committee there, the biggest issue that they say is they identify problems with finances, irregular expenditure, fruitless, wasteful expenditure, even corruption at times, and there's no consequence management. And our mayor immediately started implementing consequence management. So what the mayor also did is he took so many of those issues identified in those reports, and he requested law enforcement agencies to investigate those. So immediately when you do that, you make many enemies within the administration, and you also make enemies with the former politicians who were governing. And then those politicians immediately start looking for ways to get rid of you. And that's, I think, where the problem started, when our mayor took a stance against corruption there and implemented consequence management with his whole executive committee. And we dedicated to that. The DA doesn't stand for corruption. And we'll deal with some of the other issues. I'm sure you'll ask the questions just now on some of the issues that our opponents have raised there, and I'm looking forward to answering that as well.
I also wanted to raise a question on that when you went to court trying to prevent millions of rands to be paid to Liesel Trust developer. Can you take us through that as well?
Yes, this is a very interesting case because it comes for quite a long time. And it's very interesting that this issue raised its head just before 2024, because we know that's where the governing party gets a lot of its funds, from municipalities and from the provincial government and from tenders and contracts. And we know that is how it is on the ground. I don't think anyone in the Free State will argue that there's been enough evidence of that. But what happened in this specific case is the municipality received an account from a contractor who was a developer in the area and developed a housing development there. And initially, the municipality didn't have the funds to put in the bulk infrastructure. So the contractor said, well, they will put in that bulk infrastructure at their cost. But then later, they came with an account and said, you owe us this for bulk infrastructure. And the DA said, we don't agree with this. We don't think that the municipality and the people of Metsimaholo should be responsible for this because it wasn't part of the initial contract. So a lot of pressure was put on the municipal manager to pay this money, and he refused. And I still contest that that's one of the reasons why he was suspended. There might be other things too, but he refused to sign it. And I think that is commendable for someone to stand up and say, I'm not going to support this. He also recommended to council that they don't support us, but the ANC used their majority in council to say this must be paid. And they eventually suspended him. And the first thing that the new acting MM did was to say, we're going to authorize these payments very quickly. That in itself should raise warning lights, it should start flickering. So we went to court and we said, we're not going to allow the people of Metsimaholo's funds to be looted in this way. And we actually won that court case. And the court said that they must stop all payments to this company. And our court wouldn't do it if they didn't think that there was something wrong with these payments. So that's where we stand at the moment. And that's another way that we're willing to fight for the residents of Metsimaholo under very difficult circumstances, because you must remember all of this is happening while you're minority government. You don't have a majority in council. You've got a hostile middle management administration. So, but we did it and we won that case and we stopped those payments and we saved the people of Metsimaholo a large amount of money, and also perhaps the people of the Free State from funding political party's election campaign.
Yes, you also spoke about the suspension of the municipal manager, and then the incoming one supported the payments and all that. But initially, you also didn't support the suspension of all senior management. Can you also take us through that? Was there anything that has to do with this payment or this developer?
Well, it wasn't only the MM that was suspended. There were other people as well. But we believe that the motives behind these suspensions were political. That these individuals were not cadres. They were not willing to take instructions from politicians, because we also believe that politicians must be independent from the administrations. They weren't willing to take instructions from politicians and from the former politicians who were running the municipality, and from cadres within the municipality. And we believe that is the reason for their suspension. And these are brave things to do. It's very brave to stand up to the governing party in the Free State. You know, I was very involved with the Vrede Dairy project and exposing the irregularities that took place there. And I also testified at the Zondo Commission. And one of the things that was worrying about this case is very early on, a senior official within the Department of Agriculture who worked in the finance department there, Moses Chake, who was against the payments to the Guptas at that time, and who spoke out against them. He was kidnapped, he was tortured, he was murdered. So, you know, it's not easy to stand up to thugs. And I'm not saying that the people there are thugs, but I'm saying specifically in the Vrede Dairy, those people were thugs that he stood up against. But it also creates fear within the administration that, you know, there are consequences for standing up for what you think is right. So that's why I say, you know, you have to be very brave. And I compliment all officials who stand up to politicians and to their bosses in some instances and say, we are not going to be part of this looting. We're going to stand with the people of the Free State. And there are sometimes consequences, but it's not always the case, because we're starting to expose this where whistleblowers are victimized. And hopefully now the law enforcement agencies are starting to protect these whistleblowers more.
The budget was approved in Metsimaholo. We spoke about the issue of ESCOM, but let us talk about the engagement or the dialogue that the DA had with the communities, the community organizations, and the people of Metsimaholo in general. How did this benefit the people of Metsimaholo, particularly in terms of dealing with poor service delivery and making sure that we improve service delivery in Metsimaholo?
I think the most important thing that we try and get our municipal governments to accept is that your budgets must be service delivery orientated, and the service delivery must benefit the people of the municipality. So obviously you have to look at bulk infrastructure, but also smaller things in the municipality. And that's where in many instances we found it very difficult, you know, because we inherited administration that wasn't service delivery orientated. They were more orientated towards giving out big tenders, and, you know, the administration wasn't fixing roads. We inherited a lot of potholes, which the Free State is full of, and municipalities are full of. We inherited projects which were half complete and the money was finished, or there were various issues relating to those contracts. So, you know, with bulk infrastructure, so there were a lot of issues that we had to try and fathom. And it's very difficult when you get into administration like this, because just to try and find out the history of a project and why the municipality is paying out money to the project from an administration which is hostile towards you, just to try and get tar out of administration and people to fix potholes when you have just a handful of people in the whole municipality who are able to do it. When you don't have vehicles, I mean, the traffic department, there is staff, but they don't have vehicles. And when you fix the vehicles, and there were companies like Sasol and others who assist the municipality, not just our administration, but others to try and benefit the community, which is also to their benefit. They also assist. But, you know, when they fix something and it gets to the municipality and it's immediately broken, we regard that in many instances as sabotage as well, that your attempts to deliver services are sabotage. But what we do at the end, to come back to your question, is We listen to the people on the ground. We have our IDPs. We also throughout interact with community organizations and other people on the ground, and we at least try to get a decent budget in place. The difficult thing is to implement that budget with a hostile administration. But the first thing, as I said in the beginning, you need to do is to put your management in place who are geared towards service delivery. And we like to see independent, skilled people in positions, because we don't want them to be political puppets. We want them also to stand up to politicians when necessary. And that is how you implement your budgets.
Roy, not so long ago, the Department of COGTA released a statement whereby they mentioned few municipalities that they were saying those municipalities are dysfunctional. And Metsimaholo in Fezile Dabi was amongst those municipalities. But on your statement, you are saying Metsimaholo was heading towards the right direction in terms of improvement.
Well, let me just tell you, I don't take anything that a dysfunctional Department of COGTA in the Free State, which itself is dysfunctional, which itself is struggling with its administration. We don't take very seriously what they say. What we do take seriously is organizations like Ratings Africa, who actually mention Metsimaholo as one of the most sound municipalities in the country and in the Free State. So these are the types of people that we listen to. You know, an ANC-run COGTA we're not going to listen to. But let me tell you, through you to the MEC of COGTA, he has many dysfunctional municipalities which give him sleepless nights, him and the Premier. Well, now Metsimaholo is going to be another one of those municipalities which he's not going to sleep over at night, which he's going to have to worry about, where previously he didn't have to worry about it.
Let's talk about the removed mayor himself. He was being accused of maybe, allow his own bodyguard to lead the processes of a security tender that was maybe was even investigated by a private audit company to verify if everything went well. And how could a mayor use his own bodyguard to oversee such a big tender, whereas there are other employees within the municipality who could also provide the service?
Well, let me first set a thing straight. Last year, this issue was raised with us and within our governance unit, and we immediately advised the mayor to be involved in this thing, to be hands off. And if you look at the report, there's nothing in the report that says the mayor was directly involved in the tender. In fact, I was looking again at the executive summary just now, and the executive summary says the perception was created. Now, you can't work on perceptions. I mean, you have to work on facts. And the fact is that the mayor wasn't involved in that tender. It was an administrative process. And because the municipality at the time didn't have someone with the expertise, they perhaps incorrectly used someone in the mayor's office. But that was an administrative decision, and those investigations will take place. And I'm not going to interfere politically in that investigation by discussing the merits of the case here, because then I'll be making myself guilty of perhaps interfering. So that investigation was done, and I think that still needs interrogation, but we must allow the processes to be completed regarding that. But the mayor immediately, said he's not involved in this thing. He's not going to be involved in this process. And it's not right that someone in the mayor's office was necessarily used in the process. And the administration explained that there wasn't anyone else that they could use at the time, and this person had the PASIRA qualifications, etc. But it was something which we immediately advised the mayor, which is part of our job as a governance unit, to look for risks. And we identified this as a risk within the party, and we advised the mayor and the executive committee accordingly, and they took our advice in this regard. And now, a year later, we're hearing that this is the reason that the ANC and EFF are using to try and remove the mayor. Well, I'm sure they can find some reason somewhere. I mean, they've just tried the similar thing, the EFF in Fezile Derby, and there was nothing substantive there except, we don't like them. They're too political. There was nothing substantive there. So, at this stage, especially in Metsimaholo, I can't take seriously these allegations against the mayor or anyone in a political position in that government. But it's unfortunate because I think the people of Metsimaholo are going to be the losers at the end.
We know that you were against the suspension of the 5 senior officials, and eventually they were suspended. Your reaction on that one?
Well, as I said, we think that the reasons for the suspension were not because of this contract which they're using. It was because they refused to sign checks to pay people, which the courts later said was irregular. So they were actually vindicated by the courts for refusing to do that. And we believe that is the real reason for their suspensions. And it's sad that the ANC in council used their majority to approve these suspensions. And that is why I said at the beginning, the people of Metsimaholo must give us an absolute majority if they want to see an improvement. It's very difficult as a minority government where you don't have a majority in council, where you can be overruled in council. And that's why we went to court. I mean, we don't want to have to go to court to stop contracts like this. We should, as a government, be able to stop it. And our officials should be able to stop it. But then when you don't have a majority in council, then your opponents use their majority and abuse their majority there to enforce decisions. And then you have to, as a government, actually go to court to overturn a decision of your own council. And it's an absurd situation.
In conclusion, do you think that after what happened in Metsimaholo, do you think that people are able to see that the ANC, EFF, and other small parties, that they are abusing the power that they have?
Well, if you look at Metsimaholo, the ANC, EFF put in a small party candidate, put up a small party candidate as mayor. They then voted for him. And if you look at the MMCs, there are 4 EFF, 4 ANC, and 1 from the MCA. So, these smaller parties have allowed themselves, unfortunately, to be abused by the governing party with their EFF alliance partner in Metsimaholo to take over government. And now they're all sharing these positions. And we knew it's going to happen, that they're not going to put another minority government in power. They're going to share these positions and go and look at, I think it's interesting, the people of Metsi must go and look at who's got which portfolios as well, and which ones are have the big amounts of money attached to them. It's going to be interesting to look at that. And it's also sad that, parties like some of the other smaller parties also abstained from supporting the DA, which is also unfortunate in Metsimaholo. But at the end of the day, I always say that in a democracy, you get what you vote for. And until the people give us a majority in Metsimaholo, which hopefully will happen at the next election, they're going to continue to get this instability. And unstable governments cannot deliver services because they're constantly involved with politics. So we hope that in future, that the people of Metsimaholo will take better decisions when they go and vote. And I think people in general in South Africa must realize that, your vote is actually more important than what you think. It's in a democracy, that is what you have. That's the leverage that you have over politicians and over political parties. And you must use that very wisely. You mustn't be fooled by cheap talk, cheap politics, before an election, maybe a couple of gifts from a political party, which come from your taxpayer money anyway. Take sound decisions there, because your future, and the future of your children depends on that. And we would like Metsimaholo, if we could have governed longer, to look like Midvaal. And let me tell you what's happening in Midvaal. Big companies like Heineken moved their headquarters to Midvaal, created jobs in Midvaal. When the surrounding municipalities have fires, they phone Midvaal services to come and put out their fires, the fire services, because they don't have those services. And that's what we were offering the people of Metsimaholo, and we're still offering them that, but they're going to have to decide whether they want it. And obviously next year with the national and provincial elections, the people have that same choice.
Okay. Roy, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim. I've really enjoyed this interview and enjoyed your questions.
Thank you very much.